It's recording. Want to do it?
Uh,
Okay. Hello, everyone.
sure.
Oh, shit. I know, right? We're already off to a great start. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Illumide,
And my name is Christy.
and welcome to the Big Empty Purse podcast. The intro music is supposed to be playing, but it's not. Okay. Well, anyway, on this podcast, we'll be discussing the struggles of navigating adulthood, but also we'll be keeping you abreast on the happenings in pop culture.
Or at least the stuff that we care about.
We'll also be giving you unsolicited opinions about friendships, dating, social etiquette, and everything else. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Big Empty Purse, and we'll also be having playlists on Spotify that you can follow also. So check that out. And obviously, the disclaimer, we are not liable for the outcome if you take any of our suggestions on this podcast. Anyway.
Yeah, big risk.
We take no responsibility at all. So, Christy, what have you been up to? What cool stuff have you been currently obsessed with?
What have I been up to? I've been holidaying it up, mostly with my in-laws. We did a Zoom caroling session, which was disastrous.
Wait, how did that come about?
So my in-laws have a tradition where they usually have a bunch of people at their house, and one of them plays the piano, and they have these literal song books that they hand out to all of us when we sing carols. And I usually just sort of mouth them and don't really sing. But yeah, I have never experienced this in my life until they did it. But they still wanted to do it this year, so they tried to do it over Zoom. But audio delay is a thing.
Jesus.
It was a disaster.
Does it sound exactly what I'd imagine it sound like?
It sounds worse than you would imagine.
How long did it go for?
Oh, it was, so my husband is one of 6. Each household chose a song, and it was clear from the first song that it was not going to work, but we sang all the songs. We sang every song.
The commitment. Wow. But anyway, Jesus. I'm imagining what that sounds like, and I don't think it's great. But, is there footage of that anywhere?
I wish. We should have recorded that.
What have I been doing for my holiday? I've done absolutely nothing. I've put off all my responsibilities, as I normally do. I was supposed to be traveling. I had a trip to Tokyo, and obviously I didn't go because that got canceled. Yeah. Do you want to hear the story about how that got canceled?
Please.
This is great. The airline, who I will not mention, I had booked this ticket early 2020. I think January 12th or something was the day I booked it. And I was like, this is the year I'm going to do it. And Corona was like, absolutely not. But yeah. I wasn't going to cancel it because, if you cancel the flight, then you take the penalty, which is like a $200 penalty. And I was like, first of all, I don't want to not go. I still want to go. So if by December, it's fine. I'll go. And third week in November, I get an email saying it's canceled. And I was like, work. So if it's canceled, I called them and I was like, can I just get a refund on that? And they were like, no. I was like, what do you mean no? They're like, well, you can't get a refund. I'm like, according to who? And the lady goes, according to federal law. I was like, let me tell you something. Let me pull up the federal law to you. You see how it says consumer protection? You can't do that. And I explained to her the article and the segment and she goes, well, that's what I was told by customer relations. I was like, well, somebody lied to you. And she said, I don't have the law book in front of me, so you're not eligible for a refund. I was like, okay, look, lady, your voice is a little pointed right now. I need you to calm it down because this is not going to work for me. And she goes, well, what you could do is you can go on our website and just cancel the flight yourself and you'll just take the $200 penalty. I was like, first of all, I don't think that's fair because I didn't cancel the flight. You did. I shouldn't be penalized for that. And second of all, I can't go online and cancel a flight that doesn't exist. Like you guys already, you already canceled it. I can't change that. And she was like, well, I don't know. I can tell you. So she goes to talk to someone else. So she comes back and she goes, well, what can happen is you can go online and file a complaint with our customer relations and they'll get back to you and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I get off the phone and I go to do it, right? But when I go on the website and I try to do it, it circles you right back to the page where you cancel the ticket and you get the penalty. So I, of course,
No.
I like, if you really want problems, I will give you problems. So I called them back and I was like, so I asked for her name. Her name is Nadia. By the way, shout out to Nadia if she listened to this. And then I spoke with someone else and I was like, well, Nadia told me to do this and it didn't work. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to log on to that exact portal and you're going to put my complaint in for me. I will dictate it to you. And she was like, yeah, sure. So she goes to do it. She realizes that she can't do it. And then like she struggles for like a good 10 minutes and she just goes find somebody to figure it out. And they eventually do it. And like, I was like, well, if I don't hear back from you and this is not resolved in 3 days, I'm going to seek third party assistance. And anyway, they get back to me in 3 days and they were just like, we're not going to give you a refund. And by the way, the lady was saying to me how, COVID is not our fault. I was like, yeah, but it's my fault. Like, what are you trying to say? Like, if it's not your fault, is it like, why am I responsible for that? Like, first of all, and the other thing is, you charged money for a service you're no longer providing. Like, what's the issue?
Yeah.
But essentially, and then what she tried to do was she also offered me, she goes, well, I had booked the flight into Canada. And she was like, oh, we'll still be able to put you through Narita. And I was like, Narita is like a whole bunch of miles east. I don't speak a lick of Japanese. I know that they mostly speak English, but I was like, I can't fly in through Narita and then try to get there and try to figure out another flight through Canada because it's way outside the city. I was like, that's not going to work. So I'm telling you, I do not want that. When I hear back from customer relations, they're like, we can't do anything for you. Literally that same day, I get an email saying, your flight is back on and you're going through Narita. And I was like, what? Because I suppose what they were getting at was then, now if this flight is no longer canceled, for me to change it, I'd be the person to cancel it and then I can get that penalty. And I was like, y'all think you're slick. Y'all really think you're slick. So what I did is I just called my credit card and I was like, I want to dispute this charge. This charge is complete trash and I'm disputing it. It was a really long battle. Like when I disputed it, they gave me like a conditional refund. And after the time ran on the conditional refund, they just charged me again. And they said, the airline was like, fuck you. And I was like, why? And they're like, because you didn't purchase a refundable ticket. Meanwhile, I had receipts that I purchased a refundable ticket. I was like, you know what? I'm appealing this. I called the dispute department and I was like, so what's going to happen if they don't take the appeal the second time? They goes, well, you just go to arbitration. And I was like, that's exactly what I want because I have receipts and we can fight. I'm ready to fight. But anyway, that's what I've been doing this holiday. Since that got canceled, I just stayed home and I did nothing. I overate, obviously, but it's almost like I don't learn. I do it every year. And that's that on that. But anyway.
Yep. Oh my God. You are so committed. I would have. Well, I say I would have. I wish I were in the situation where I could be like, just take my $200. Like, it's no biggie. Like, but I think I would have gotten to the give up and take my $200 phase a lot earlier than you did.
But this is the thing, though. And I thought about that, too. I was like, first of all, at this point, I was prepared to lose all of the money because I figured this is a futile battle. I don't think I'm going to win. But even if I had, the thing is, if you had just taken the $200 penalty, you would never see that refund because they'll just tell you, oh, it's going to take 90 days or whatever, and they'll just never get back to you. That's actually what happened to it. This happened twice this year, actually. Another airline did this to me in like June.
Oh my God.
I was supposed to be going to Milan, and they canceled that too. And I was like, and I called them, but of course the Europeans, like they have that whole law where if you operate an airline in the EU and you're unable to make that flight, you're actually liable to just refund that money immediately. without asking questions.
Oh,
And they have better laws there. I don't know why
wow.
we're
Imagine
struggling.
that. Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is, if you don't refund that money or you don't like cancel it in enough time, you're also liable for compensating whoever it is, because then you put them through all that stress of figuring other plans out. So they'd rather just refund money up front. So I called them and they're like, oh yeah, we'll refund the money, but like give us like 60 days. Well, they first said 30 days, and I called them back after 30 days, like, oh, give us 90 days for experience and delays. And 90 days later, I still didn't see the money. I was like, credit card company, I need a fucking dispute. Yeah, I figured I was going to lose the money anyway, but even if I didn't lose the money, if they give you like that nonsense voucher that most people get, when you eventually go back to rebook that trip, the trip wouldn't cost the same. The voucher would not be enough to cover the cost of the trip. So you might as well take that money back and use it for something else. But I was like, nope, this is a futile battle. I'm going to lose it. But however, the first lady, Nadia, was really rude. She was extremely rude to me. And I was like, to me, I said, let's just fight. I'm ready to fight. So I was just, at that point, it was just like I did it out of spite. I was going to see them through to the very bitter end. I was ready to fight. But anyway, actually, yeah, but
Oh my God.
I know.
It's not Nadia's fault that there's COVID.
Yeah, obviously, but it's mine. Clearly. That's the thing is, the airlines, they have insurance for this purpose. Like, you are selling a product. This is what I suppose. I mean, and I get it. Like, for a company to stay afloat for that long, they have to foresee future revenue and like bank on it and all that kind of stuff. But I'm like, if a global pandemic happens and your pockets are not padded for the past half century that you've been in business, do you really think a customer who literally is just doing everything by themselves is prepared for that? Like, if you take X amount of money from one individual, and that amount of money is so significant that they can only afford to do that once every 3 or 4 years, don't you think that's going to affect, and especially in a pandemic that maybe some people lost their incomes and all kind of stuff happened? Like, just give them back the money. But anyway, I'm not trying to like start fights with airlines that that I can't finish, but I kind of did. So have you been watching any shows lately? Anything that caught your eye? Anything that is noteworthy?
Oh my God. So I finally finished, we like binged hardcore Lovecraft Country on HBO. Did you watch that?
Right. I did see that. Somebody recommended it to me. Did you like it?
Oh my God. I loved it. It's weird. It's so weird, which I love.
Wait, by the way,
and it's based on
spoiler alert. By the way, we're talking about Lovecraft County on HBO Max. So if you have not seen it, pause the podcast, go watch it, then come back.
Yes.
But anyway, continue.
Yeah, no, it's like, it's so bizarre. I absolutely love it. And it's actually a great perspective. So like, I picked it up because Jordan Peele was one of the producers.
Yes.
And so I trust him.
Yeah.
And it was great. I really enjoyed it. And then it's based on a book, which
Really?
I went to go read.
That.
It's based on a book. So like if you haven't seen the show, which you have, but for our listeners out there, if you haven't seen the show, a lot of it's like a horror / sci-fi show, but it also talks about race, and it's based, like, all the main characters are like a Black family and friends in Chicago. And so it like tackles a lot of that at the same time. The book is written by a white dude. I was like,
that tracks.
I mean, I don't know what I expected.
That tracks.
I don't know what I expected, but
it's like The Color Purple. It was made by, what's the name of that popular director who made E.T.? Steven Spielberg.
Oh yeah.
I was like that. I always thought that movie was made by a Black person. I was like, no, this movie was made by a very white person. So that's that on that. Yeah, I did see it. I remember I didn't know what to make of it. It was so, and I didn't know it was based on a book either, because I was just watching it passively because somebody recommended it, and I was watching it so because it has a whole bunch of witchcraft in it and all sorts of like fantastical things, and I didn't know. I was like, wow. I have thoughts on that, but like I'm not trying to like start poking all just put my whole finger in the plot holes and be like right here.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a few plot holes that I was like, we can
Oh
have,
yeah.
you know what, we can
Yeah,
have
yeah.
another entire episode where we'll like break that down and discuss the plot holes on that, because I have more than a few thoughts on that. Yeah.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, I have seen Lovecraft County. But I haven't seen I watched this anime on like Netflix called The Great Pretender, and I kind of just watched it passively because what else am I gonna do? And Netflix should do better. They really should. But it's a good show for a passive watch. But if you're looking for something that's gonna blow your top off or whatever, no. But the other thing that I've been doing is I've gone back to watch all the movies that I really liked. Like, you know, I went back and saw Inception. I went back and saw Molly's Game. I went back and saw the other movie by Jessica Chastain. It's called Miss Sloane. Have you seen that?
No.
I think it's a great movie. It's about she plays a spoiler alert. We're talking about Miss Sloane featuring Jessica Chastain. Anyway, so she plays a lobbyist, and she does all this borderline ethical shit, and she almost gets thrown in jail, but she's pretty. It's one of those it has really fast, witty dialogue, and I don't want to say it's a whodunit, but it's almost like it's. I don't want to say it's espionage either, but it's kind of like follow what's happening really closely. If you like blink too much, you'll like miss something important. But I enjoyed that, and also I've been obsessed with old Hollywood movies. Like I went back and I saw Auntie Mame, All About Eve. I saw Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, and
Oh my god.
I never see when people say that movie is a B-rate movie. I'm like, I think it's a very comfortably in the camp territory. It's complete camp. I could not
Yeah.
stop laughing from the beginning to end. If I watch it from the perspective of this is so fucking stupid, and at the end where she goes, and all this time we could have been friends. That killed me. That
Oh my
fucking
God.
killed me. But anyway, that's what
Oh
I've
my
been
God.
watching recently. But yeah,
Oh.
there's a lot of good content
never-
to rewatch.
I've never seen that movie. I've only ever seen the RuPaul skits making fun of that movie.
You know what? I highly recommend it. I feel like it's good content to know about and to have. Yeah. I made like a whole calendar of like all the old movies that I had to like touch on, like Casablanca, and the one with actually Katharine Hepburn did a whole bunch of. I'm saying Katharine Hepburn, but who I really mean is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier. Yeah, I like had a whole calendar. I was gonna like follow it and watch all the movies, but like I saw like maybe 6, and then like I couldn't find the rest, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna chill out on this. But yeah, all those are great to watch, at least just for the culture. Have you listened to anything?
Well, the last month I'm one of like I deserve to be read for this, but I'm actually one of those people who enjoys listening to Christmas music.
Shout out,
Like I straight listen to Christmas music. But I did my looked at that like Spotify wrap up thing. Did you do that?
I did.
Yes. It's like it's like, ooh, it makes you take a hard look at yourself. But but apparently, and I'm not surprised, and I don't regret it, but I was in the top 0.1% of Vince Staples listeners.
Oy.
Because I'm like 5 years behind on pop culture, and I finally listened to Summertime '06, the album.
Did you like it?
And I liked it, and then I loved it, and then I just literally listened to it on repeat for months.
That'll put you in the 0.1%. That will do it.
Yeah.
You know, I think I might have listened to it maybe twice altogether, and not the full, because I think the album is called Summertime.
Yeah, Summertime '06.
Right, and I maybe listened to 4 songs on it, and I couldn't even right now tell you what I remember from it. I don't think it stuck with me. Also, but that's not to say, I'm sure Vince Staples is not listening to this podcast, but if he is, that's not to say the content isn't great. That's just because I have not kept up with modern music, period.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
It's sad. And I thought after college I was like, you know what? I'm still young. I'm still hip. I'm not young, and I'm not hip. Like the
No.
last time I mean, before the pandemic happened, I think I might have gone out clubbing sometime in 2019, and you would not believe it. Pretty much 80% of the music that they played, I couldn't identify. I
Oh
was
no.
like, what has happened to me? And everybody was
Oh no.
singing everything word for word. They knew everything down pat. And I was like, I don't get what's happening here. But yeah. But this year I did exactly what you said. I've First of all, I will say this right now. Mariah Carey, shout out to Mariah Carey. She campaigns harder than Jesus Christ and Santa Claus during this time every fucking year, and she does a great job. Great job. She had I think she remixed one of her old songs. I don't know if you've seen this. It was called "Oh Santa," and she featured Jennifer Hudson and Ariana Grande on it.
Oh my God.
It's a bop. I'm not embarrassed to
Oh,
say it's a bop. I love it. And that song that gets her number one on the Billboard charts every year, the All I Want for Christmas Is You.
yep.
November 30 passes and it's like 12 a.m. December 1, and I'm
Yep.
like, play Mariah Carey. That's it.
Yeah, like hand over the play button. Like
It's just Mariah Carey.
give it to
all
me
through.
now.
Right. But I just discovered, not just, she's been out for a while. There's this Nigerian artist called Asha, and she gives me kind of Amy Winehouse vibes. Hey, you know I love Amy Winehouse.
Yes.
And she does great music, and I've pretty much just played her entire catalog back to back, like for months on end. I've also been obsessed with London Grammar's "Wasting My Young Years" because I relate to that on a spiritual level. Have you heard? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the song, but I hear that song and I'm like, they didn't lie. Honestly, that's just what this is now. And of course, did you see Black is King earlier the year?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Oh my
I won't
God.
spoil it for you.
I am slipping.
Too much. Exactly. Do you see what happened? Like, I was late to it too. I didn't watch it when it came out. Like, it was like a whole month later, and I was like, oh, I guess I should see this. And I saw it. There is one song on there called "Mood Forever." It's literally not spelled forever. It's spelled F for the number forever. You'll figure this out. But the actual video version of it, because the gift, the music actually came with the Lion King movie earlier, and the Blackest King visual came much later. So we already knew all the songs that were going to be part of it, except maybe for like one song or whatever the deluxe album came with later. But we pretty much knew what was going to be on there. And there's that song "Mood Forever." It really is a mood. And not just the recorded version, the studio version that came with the album, but the one that came with the visual album. There's like a whole segment in there that Beyonce just pops off. And there's a very specific line in one of her, like, it's not even, it's the thing she does where she's not really rapping, but she's like sing rapping. And an entire bar in that rap is just her saying her full name, her government name, the name that's on her driver's license. She literally just says, "I am Beyonce. Giselle knows Carter." That's a line. That's the line. And everybody pops off for that line. And the other part is, in the video version, she has this, by the way, Childish Gambino is also on there. I think his little outro is really cool on that. But she has this segment where she just, in between, she steals a beat from Busta Rhymes. I don't know if she steals it. She probably cleared the rights to it. Who knows? But he had a song back in the day in the 90s called "Put Your Hands Where I Can See." And that beat slaps. It really does slap. And so she uses that as like the undertone segue from like the main bulk of the song to Childish Gambino's outro. Anyway, I live for that. I watch it on repeat. I fall asleep to it. I can recite the whole song start to finish without the music. It's great. But yeah, that's in terms of music, that's what I've been obsessed with this year. Oh, sidebar. I put this on here because I wanted to discuss this. Did you know that Atlantic City, New Jersey is offering bidders the chance to blow up the former Trump casino called the Trump Plaza?
Oh my God, no.
It's so petty. It's so fucking petty. They're like, you know what?
Oh.
If you pay enough money, we will give you the rights to press the button to bring that building down. And people have bid on it. Right now, the bid is up to,
I'm
as of
sure.
like today, the bid is up to $62,500. Somebody is going to sign a check for almost $70,000 just to blow up his building. Just to blow it
Oh
up.
my God.
I'm like, work. If I had that kind of money, I'm sure I'd pay for that too. But like, wow. Wow.
Where do you have to be in life to just spend $70,000 just to be petty?
You know what would be funny is if somebody's like, I'm going to use my entire life savings to do this. It's not like they have just like, they don't have like a whole bunch of money. They're like saving up their entire, in fact, they went to borrow the money just to push the button to blow that building up. I feel like that's like exactly what people are about in this year. But anyway.
Oh my God. That would be commitment. I'm sure that person exists out there. I'm sure that
Honestly.
person exists.
And shout out to them. Look, whoever, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and you have a whole bunch of money that you have nothing to do with, please, I beg of you, spend the money to blow that building up and then tag us on Twitter, at us, send us a message and let us know who you are just so we can shout you out because respect.
Yes, we need to know you. We need to know your life, your motivations.
What brought you to this point? Why are you doing this? Yeah. Oh, which I don't know. This is a perfect segue into today's topic. Speaking of blowing up building that belongs to Trump, we'll be discussing the year 2020. This is an official recap episode. Hell.
Oh,
Where do we begin? Where
Oh,
do we
God.
begin? I suppose we should start with the good news because God knows there's plenty of depressing shit that happened this year. First up, we had an election. Yay, USA. Wait, where's the applause button? Yeah, we had an election, and I think for the first time in a really long time, we had fantastic voter turnout, which means a lot of us are paying attention and making sure our voices are heard. So shout out to everybody who voted in 2020.
yes. Shout out. That was actually really encouraging. Like straight up.
Okay, can we say it a different way? But did you realize that, like, okay, it was encouraging for both sides, to say the least, because there was a huge voter turnout on both sides, which and shout out to Georgia that actually went blue.
Yes.
And first of all, shout out to people who live in Georgia. I don't live in Georgia, so I don't know about this, but everybody in Georgia was saying how like Georgia has really never been a red state. It's just because of voter suppression that Georgia has always gone red. But this year, Stacey Abrams showed up. She registered a lot of people. She got them to go to the polls. And they actually managed to flip Georgia blue. So shout out to Georgia. Applause is in order for that.
Yes.
The applause. Yeah, shout out to Georgia for that. Thank you guys. And the other crazy thing that happened is, have you been reading about all the recounts that they've had to do to prove that the results were in fact what they were?
Yeah. I know one of them, I think maybe it was Georgia, or maybe it was another state. Like they were all like recounts ordered by the Trump team, and it came out like 10 more votes in favor of Biden at the end.
Honestly, I mean, the rest of the world is like looking at our election and like, wow, this is really just a reality TV show. Like,
Yeah.
and it's almost like a reality TV show, and this is like our final season. Like, we are pulling out everything is just heightened for no reason at all. But shout out to us who voted in 2020. We did good work. Good for us. The second great news is wildlife all over the world is thriving. Well, not all over the world, but apparently there are greater sightings of humpback whales in New York City, because I suppose the regulation in I think the 70s to stop the pollution coming out of New York City into the water has actually started to take effect, and the wildlife in the water around there is thriving. So shout out to them. Wait, I didn't see this earlier. Sea turtles are being...
Oh yeah, I saw this. So there's been like record numbers of sea turtles because tourists have been like keeping off beaches. So they've actually been thriving. A lot more of them have been surviving. So
Work. See, honestly, I will say, like, humans, we are the problem. It's us. We are the problem. Because I also heard, like, in a lot of the canals and the waterways in Italy, like, people are seeing dolphins just chilling again. And I'm like, wow. So they would have been there this whole time if we just didn't mess it up for no reason? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
God damn it.
We're just fucking everything up in ways we know about, in ways we don't know about. Like, we're just coming through and wrecking shit.
Honestly. The other thing that I found out recently, which I thought was pretty cool, in April this year when we were all in lockdown, the last coal plant in Verkit, Sweden, I hope I'm saying that right. A shout out to the people who live in Verkit. They closed their last coal plant. And also in Malak, Austria, they also closed their last coal plant, which means those two countries are officially coal free. So
yes,
shout out to them. We're really happy about that. US, you're up next. Fix your shit.
Oh. yeah I saw this and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize that other countries were this close to being coal free because of how not close we are to being coal free.
And apparently Sweden is actually 2 whole years ahead of schedule. They had scheduled to close that last power plant 2 years from now. And they just were like, oh, I suppose we don't need it anymore. Shut it down. I was like, wow. Good for them. Like, and they were one day of each other, right? Like, I think Sweden closed their last on like April 27, and like Malacca, Austria was like, oh, we'll close ours on April 28. How about that?
Yeah.
So
petty.
Really, honestly, but I'm happy about this. I think if they keep going at this rate, we might actually be able to make. I'm optimistic, like hopeful. Belgium apparently did this before Sweden.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Belgium. I don't know when Belgium did that, but yeah.
Work. Okay, so apparently Europe is really just, they've mostly had their shit together for a really long time.
Yeah. No coal, refundable airline tickets.
No. Yeah. Oh. Bless us. Really. Oh, I know nothing about this. Renewables are getting cheaper. How?
Yeah, so I know a little bit, so since I work in renewable energy, but yes. Yeah, that's been fun the past 4 years. But no, just because like the more renewables that we put in place, the cheaper they are, just because like if you're manufacturing them at a larger scale, they're cheaper to make. People are more used to them now, so like the like regulations and permitting and like actually figuring out how to use them is way easier. So they've still got a lot of ways to go, but solar I think is one of like the cheapest, if not like the cheapest source of energy right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Have they? I mean, I know very little about this. From what I understood, the cost of production was the rate limiting step was like they couldn't get the solar cells to be as efficient as possible, so they just needed to like use more of the inefficient ones.
Yeah, the efficiency has gone way up. It's also been a matter of like manufacturing, like figuring out ways to manufacture the efficient ones. Like we could make bad ones cheaply and good ones expensively. So it's been a lot of like innovations in like being able to manufacture and like replicate the high efficiencies that people can get in the labs in like an actual product.
I'm really happy about this. You know, the other thing that I went to IKEA maybe 3 months ago, and I was blown away. For the first time, I saw the parking lot in IKEA. They have these like canopy structures. They're not really canopies. They're like, you know, if you go buy gas at a gas station, they usually have those cover shed things where you just pull up and you just, all of those cover shed things were on every parking lot strip in that parking lot. And on top of those roof things were solar panels on every single strip. And I was like, this is a great idea. this is a wonderful idea. And this is just IKEA as like only one corporation. I feel like if every parking lot figured out a way to incorporate this, honestly, just hook some transformer or whatever it is and just save that energy, and then like a whole neighborhood could be powered by, I don't know what the efficiency is, but like at least if you do a little and you just take a few houses off of like the coal grid or whatever, then it'll all add up at some point. Yeah, I was really happy to see that. I did not know that they were working in that direction. So shout out to IKEA. We love you.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is with respect to the pandas. Shout out to the pandas. Apparently, the pandas at the Smithsonian reproduce by having sex for the first time in a really long time. And this is apparently a really big deal. And I actually had to go look this up because I didn't know why this is a big deal either. But apparently, the giant female pandas only go into estrus once a year. And when it happens, it only happens for about 24 to 72 hours. So if they don't reproduce during that time, gotta wait a whole new year. And the other issues is, and they were endangered like what? I think they officially were endangered in the 70s. If I'm wrong, fact check me and at me on Twitter. Sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, and apparently it was because there was a whole bunch of poaching, deforestation, and farm expansion. So they just had no grounds to live on. And also, because of that, the Chinese government had a whole, they had conservation efforts to like capture and breed them. But apparently in captivity, the captivity just kills the reproductive move. So they're not in the mood when they're captive. So they've done their best to make them feel comfortable. But even then, like what compounds the problem is that the low frequency of sexual activity means that the younger pandas have very few opportunities to watch and learn how it's done. They are not being taught. So yeah, apparently like in the year 2020 they just were like, okay, this is the year, we're gonna get it on. They figured out what they were doing and they actually reproduced without needing the breeding program. So which, I mean, that's the thing, right? A lot of the pandas that are alive today are alive only because of the breeding program, not because they just quote unquote naturally reproduced. So shout out to the pandas of the zoo. I'm sure they don't understand English, but if they do, shout out to you. And the other great news is the Great Barrier Reefs that have just completely gone sideways.
Yeah.
The Southern Great Barrier Reef is apparently recovering on its own at a significant rate that they can actually observe in 2020. I was like, on its own? But I mean, this is like after them, like, first of all, humans need to just chill the fuck out. But also, they've done a whole bunch of research to like try to help it along. But all the work that they've done was only like incremental improvement. But this year it was like significant. And I feel like I should explain what corals are. So school is in session. Pull up a chair. This is going to take 3 minutes. Yeah. Let's learn about corals, everybody. So corals, I didn't, like when I was in high school, I honestly thought they were just plants. But they're actually animals. So corals are animals, and they're basically invertebrates that are related to jellyfish. And they are sessile, meaning that they're immobile. However, I just learned this. They have tentacles, and they can sting. I was shocked by
really?
That. I was shocked by See what I did there? I was shocked by it. Speaking of tentacles that can sting. But they basically reproduce. I can't. They release their sperm and their eggs into the water, and when the baby corals are created, they just settle down and land in one spot, and that's exactly where they remain. They don't move. They build large structures, deposits of calcium carbonate, which are known as the reefs. And these structures are complex ecosystems that support a lot of marine animals. So they're essentially like a cornerstone species. But however, they cannot move. So that means that they rely on a symbiotic relationship with algae to survive. And due to global warming, pollution, acidification, and disruptions, especially the cyclone of 2009, the symbiotic relationship breaks down. So, which means that the algae just goes away or dies or whatever the problem is, and the clear tissue of the corals is what's left, so that they look bleached, which is why it's called coral bleaching. And when there's no nutrients because the algae is gone, they just die. And which is a problem, because once the corals die, then that means the structures that they keep building and provide for every other species in the area is just gone. So all the other species that rely, once the coral die, it's like a cascade effect. Everything else just starts to die. So hopefully this improves. But I think nobody actually knows why it's improving by itself, like specifically in 2020. Is it because that there are fewer disruptions, or they've been improving? It's almost like the lag phase and the log phase. They've been improving like in lag phase for a while. Now they just entered log phase. Nobody actually knows, but hopefully it gets better. That's all we can hope for. Yeah. And humans, if we have anything to do with it, let's just keep away. Please.
Right.
Just don't touch them. Let them be.
Right. Hands off.
Honestly. But anyway, I was really excited about that. Oh my God. Now we have to talk about the not so good news.
Oh my God. So stay tuned for the next 10 hours while we
I know
all the bad shit that happened.
How much time do you have? The obviously bad news is COVID. COVID made a fool out of everyone, honestly. It came in like a wrecking ball, and it took everybody by surprise. Which, by the way, we say it took everybody by surprise, but literally anybody who knew anything about like global pandemics was like, we need to prepare in the case that there is one. And we kind of didn't prepare. So,
yeah.
By the way, we should like PSA, COVID isn't over. Please stay at home, wash your hands, wear your mask if you have to leave the house, and if you can, consider getting the vaccine. Please. We need you guys to actually do your part here. But along with that, the biggest part was the travel was shut down, right? Speaking of travel being shut down, there were a whole bunch of canceled flights, the travel bans, and large gatherings. And I understand, like, a lot of people who had to go for conferences, concerts, festivals, all that stuff, completely shut down. Like, nobody was able to do anything. So...
yeah, I was actually planning a conference for my job that was like 700 or 800 people. That was the first. Yeah, that was the first week in April.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an exciting adventure, converting that to a virtual event in like 3 weeks.
Oh, let me tell you something. The conference I was supposed to attend was supposed to be in Chicago in April also, and March, when it started to look really bad, you're supposed to register and all that stuff. So I registered, but like you submit all your material, the exception, all that stuff. And when it was time to like pay for the accommodations and everything, I was like, it looks like this might get canceled. So I was like, I'm not getting a hotel. I'm not like booking the car. I'm not doing any of that. Like, I'm not booking the flight. We're just going to wait it out. And sure enough, like a week before, they canceled. And I was like, okay. I'm happy I didn't actually do all the other stuff. But yeah, and then they were like, oh, let's just try to do it virtual. I was like, no thanks. Because like, if I can't, I was like, no thanks. I still submitted all the stuff, and like I gave them, you know how you're supposed to give them the rights, so like they can put it in there, whatever it is, and publish it. Yeah. No, I was like, yeah, no, but I'm actually not going to physically participate in this bullshit. Like, just publish all the work. I'll read about it at some point, but like, I'm not going to sit there and try to, no. So yeah, it sucks to suck. And the sad part is like, I think people just got fatigued about this and they just stopped caring as much. But like, obviously, like the number of people who have died, like how much is it up to now? God. It's a lot of people who are just, I think like anybody who's doing well, who didn't really lose a lot, like I think you are very, very fortunate, and you should really understand and appreciate that. But yeah, one in 1,000 Americans has died of COVID. Like, is this total? Like over the year? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a really high rate.
Yeah. Yeah. It is funny how you get funny how you get desensitized
Yeah,
to the death toll. But I remember like in March, like in April, just so closely following the numbers and being like, oh my God, there's 125 cases in DC, like being petrified. Now I'm like, oh, numbers are down. It's only like 5,000.
Oh, we shouldn't laugh because this is horrible. This is really bad. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There's that meme I saw. I don't know if do you know that meme of that hamster, the hamster that throws up the peace sign?
Oh yeah.
Okay, there's also the hamster, the hamster that's like looks shocked and petrified. So they had like a side by side. I thought this was clever. When they were like, oh, the death toll is 100 people, like the hamster looks petrified. And when the death toll goes up to like hundreds of thousands, the hamster is like, peace sign. That's really how we are. We got scared at the very beginning when like it was a really low number. And now that it's a big number, we're just like, eh. Yeah. And I went to do my car maintenance the other day. I wanted to slap this woman. She was sitting there and she had her mask on her chin. She was coughing.
Oh my God, no.
The mask was on her chin. She didn't cover her mouth or her nose. Like, it was just on her chin, and she was coughing. And I was like,
why?
Why is she here? Why?
Why?
Like, and not trying to get, like, I just had to move away from her. I had to move as far away from her as possible. And I was like, wow. Just put the mask on, woman. It's really, it's fabric.
Right there.
It's fabric. Put it on.
It's a little piece of fabric over your face. Like, oh my God. It's literally the easiest thing.
It's wild. It's wild. But yeah, please guys, take this seriously. Honestly, people who they think it's a conspiracy. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a conspiracy or not. The reality is people are dying because of this. So take it seriously.
Yeah.
Probably won't be our last pandemic.
Oh, yeah. That was like, I was thinking about this and I was like, how far into the depressing like parts of this news should we get? Because like, like you said, like people saw this coming, like, and we were still wholly unprepared, but like, it's been like the clearest place to follow it for me has been, Ed Yong. It does like science writing at The Atlantic.
Uh-huh.
And in 2018, he literally wrote this piece. It was like, we're going to have a pandemic and we're not ready. And like, you would think that he wrote it in like March because it's literally like, here's all the things we're not prepared for. And like,
surprise.
Shocking. But yeah, so then he wrote an article like at the start of the pandemic that was like, yeah, I told you guys. It was much better than that. Shout out to Ed Yong.
Right. Boy.
But literally, there's a scientist quoted in that article calling this a starter pandemic.
Wow.
Just because, like, of all of the, like, viruses that could have jumped from, like, wildlife and livestock, like, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah. And you know the funny thing is, and this part really upset me, Gates... Shout out to Bill Gates of the Bill Gates Foundation, of the Gates Foundation. And he apparently has been doing a whole lot of work to, like... advise and prepare people for doing this, and some ignorant person was like, well, if he has all this money and he knew what's gonna happen, then why didn't he prevent it? I was like, what? Like, why is that your first attack? And there's also somebody was telling me about this, like they went on Facebook, which I think is their first problem right there, going on Facebook. So they went on. I mean, let's just bring it back. She was telling me about like, oh, she went on Facebook and some of the friends that she knew from like way back home when she was in like high school was posting that, oh, the sickness gets worse when you wear a mask. And of course, she didn't think to stop there, close Facebook and leave. She kept reading. And the person was like, because if you wear the mask, you're not breathing out the virus. You're just breathing it back in and recirculating it, and it gets concentrated in your brain.
In your brain. No.
I was like, wow. People are completely missing the point of this. I was like, geez.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah, no, so... But people are not taking this seriously on Facebook and are just spewing all sorts of nonsense. Literally spewing the nonsense. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But we can literally have a whole episode where we roast those people because wow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and of
Yeah,
course, by the way,
oof.
let's talk about 45 for a second. How he was saying, "Oh, it's not a threat," at the rallies, like, and when he got sick, you know that song where Lil Wayne is like, "Wheezy F baby." 45 was wheezing, and like whoever is in charge of his like social media or like his media in general did a terrible job because when they tried to cut the video up into pieces to chop out the parts where he was coughing and hacking up along, it was so discontinuous. You could tell that they just cut out a whole chunk where he was just like losing it. And I was like,
oh my god,
why like you don't think it's serious until like something bad happens. Like, why are we like this? Anyway, I will say though, as far as shout out to the healthcare folk and the early responders. Like, I think they really showed up and had a whole bunch of sacrifices this year. Like, imagine going to work knowing that there isn't enough PPE for you, but you still have to take care of all the people who are sick, and they are doing it day in, day out. So shout out to them. Honestly, if I were a healthcare person, maybe I would have taken like a few weeks off because like it was overwhelming at some point. Like, it still is overwhelming, but honestly, like not having, they did good work. Like, shout out to them. The other bad news, the fires. Oh, God. This year we went through it this year. Like, this year was a lot. It was a lot.
Oh my God. Yeah, it was not just figuratively on fire. It was literally on fire.
Adele, where are you? Yeah, I know. California was on fire. Australia was, I mean, first of all, California is always on fire, but like this year, I think it was especially bad. Australia was on fire. I remember like Nicole Kidman and the rest of the folks they were really going through it. Like a whole bunch of whole celebrities' houses just burned for no reason at all. And the part that happened, I thought this started in 2019, but it also carried into 2020. The Amazon fires.
Oh my God. Seriously?
I swear, I could not make sense of this because I was like, how does a rainforest that's waterlogged and soaked in water, how does that catch fire? How? And apparently somebody broke it down and they were like, well, because of the deforestation that happened, they're just patches that have nothing. And like the fire starts there, and by the time it like reaches stuff, like it's already strong enough that it can like engulf whole things at once. And I was like, see, we need to just do better. We need to do better. Yeah. Like how do we get a rainforest to catch fire? I thought about that. I was like, this is wild. There's more?
There's more.
What's this about the murder hornets? Oh God, this sounds horrible.
I was just trying to remember back on all of 2020, and like obviously there were like the big bad news things, but it was one of those like it was just everywhere you turned, it was like some new stupid bad thing, and like the one that stood out to me was the murder hornets. Just like, what the fuck? Oh, like, it's which are these? I had heard of the murder hornets, and I had to go back and like remember what they were. But they're an invasive species in the U.S. They're native to Asia. They are huge hornets. They kill 50 people a year in Japan.
Is that why they're called murder hornets? Because
they literally kill people.
What's the how do they kill? Like, what's the is there do they have venomous talk or is it just an inflammatory response to when they sting? Like,
I'm not sure actually.
Wow, that's wild.
Add us on Twitter if you know about the murder hornets.
I know. Like, teach us something new. We want to know. Wow.
I just 2020 was just sprinkled with bad things. Like just. Oh.
We went through it this year. I mean, yikes. We really went through it this year. And the thing is,
the poor bees, couldn't even catch a break. Like all the rest of the wildlife is doing okay. And then the murder hornets come for them.
Fuck the bees. Not the bees. Yeah, no. I mean, look, you know how 2019 like was rough. we gotta like shout out to 2019. It was rough, and we were all looking forward to 2020. Like, oh, 2020 is gonna be better.
My God.
2020 was like, don't think so. What you guys were hoping for? Absolutely not. In fact, what happened in 2019? Let's turn it up like a tenfold notch. Let's just completely go for it. We went through it, and
oh God.
On other insignificant bad news, I have been waiting for the next James Bond installation. Daniel Craig, if you listen to this, how fucking dare you? How dare you? Because it was supposed to be released actually earlier, but they had a snafu with like getting a director to commit to the project, yada yada yada. So they eventually got a director. I forget his name. He has anyway, I forget his name. This cool director has done all the good work, and they finally get him on board, and okay, fine. So they pushed it back to November 2019, and I was ready. I've seen every single Bond movie. I love them all. It's the cheesiest thing. The newer ones are getting better. I think Skyfall is my favorite so far. Judi Dench, shout out to you. But when they said it was going to be released in November 2019, I was ready for it. And then they're like, we're going to have to push it back. So they pushed it back to spring. Like, they didn't give a real date. They just said spring. And I was like, okay. Yeah. But spring is right when the pandemic was raging over here. So they had to shut everything down. And they were like, we can't release a movie in theaters, like a big blockbuster movie. We're never going to see the money back, right? So they're like, okay, you know what? Right. Let's just push it back to November 2020. Because they're like, the pandemic should be under control by then, right? We didn't have that either. Oh, no. That didn't happen. So now they're like, we're going to push it to 2021. Can you give us a date? They were like, absolutely not. We're just going to vaguely say 2021. We'll see what's going to happen. And the thing is, like, I'm praying that but I'm really upset about this. Because it's supposed to be like the hurrah, the very last one that Daniel Craig is going to do. And they've like pent up all this energy from like the past three movies, and it has to go somewhere. So I've been really looking forward to it. But also, I think maybe I shouldn't jinx it, because the last movie I looked forward to this intently was Suicide Squad. Did you see Suicide Squad?
I did not, no.
You are very lucky, my friend. Very lucky. Because that movie, it was like a train wreck that was on fire. And you just, you couldn't watch it, but you also couldn't look away. It was bad. And first of all, I love Viola Davis. They were like, we're putting Viola Davis in this movie. And I'm like, I'm here for it. I'm going to watch that movie because I love Viola Davis. But even Viola Davis could not carry that movie by herself. They still managed to find her performance was great. I won't lie, it was good, but like they still managed to fuck it up. They put Will Smith in that movie. They put Jared Leto. They put, I think her name is Margot Robbie. I think it's her. Yeah, and they still managed to ruin it. And by the way, Jared Leto playing the Joker, that was a mess. A mess. It was pretty much like a caricature where he just acted like a maniac. It didn't have. Like, the character was a god. I shouldn't complain this much, but anyway, that movie was a catastrophe. Like, Meryl Streep in Devil Wears Prada, she'd purse her lips at that movie. It was that bad. But I'm looking forward to the new James Bond movie, and I hope they don't disappoint me. But please, whoever is in charge of that, if you're listening to this, I beg of you, release it. And don't do what Wonder Woman did. Did you see Wonder Woman 1984?
No, I heard not super things.
Okay, you know what? Let's not talk about that today. We'll leave that for the next podcast on account of there's so much to be said. That was, it was a moment. It was a moment. But I think we've reached sufficient content for this one.
Can we pause really quick?
Okay.
I have to pee.
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead and pee.
Keep that in the final recording.
On next week's episode, we'll be talking about the New Year's resolutions and traditions. Let us know if you have any specific tradition that you want us to discuss or cover, or resolution, actually. We'd like to hear from you. So, until next time, peace.